Challenge accepted, Road. Challenge accepted. Musings. Hey everybody, just thought that we'd do something a little bit different for a little Friday show here, or just another little musings of an idea that I came up with completely by myself. Anyway, I have like 3 pages of notes here. I thought it would be kind of fun to go through the unannounced. I usually do this on the deep dives once a quarter when they release a patch, but this time they haven't released a patch for a long time. Like I released it on the big numbers, so like 317, 318, 319, that kind of thing. So on like 317.1 I don't do one, 317.2 I don't do one, 318 I will. But typically what I do during those is I'll go through pretty much everything that's had work on this year, and I'll kind of do a deeper dive into the unannounced, just kind of do a little bit of hypotheticals of what I think it is. So I thought that might be fun to actually go through and do that again, since we haven't had a patch for a while and we're not going to be having another one until November apparently. So just as kind of a heads up and a caveat on this, this is completely blue sky conjecture, theory crafting by me, just based on the teams that are working on it, based on when it was finished, based on what they're working on now. So in no way should you take this as me having any kind of expertise or profound knowledge in what's going to actually happen here. I'm just making guesses. They're educated guesses, but they're guesses. So that's a caveat. That out of the way. Let's get into this. So we're in the deliverables view on the roadmap. I've got it set to 1 quarter, just like I usually do. Keep it so that this line here, week 12 of quarter 3, is where we are. We're actually right here at the end of it. Next week, this line will be in the middle over here. 2 weeks from now, we'll be over there on week 1 of quarter 4, which is exciting. But let's go ahead and get started. So with unannounced ships, or unannounced things, it can be content, it can be tech, it can be vehicles. If I see anything else outside of those 3, we'll talk about them. I think those are the 3 big categories that they throw unannounced things in. But these are things that they kind of want to surprise us with, or in the rare case, in some ships, it's a ship that we know about, but they don't want to let us know they're working on it until they're sure that they can actually do it. They did that with the Merchantman, I think in 2020 or 2021, before they let us know that that was actually the ship they were working on. They had it as one of these unannounced ships with like a huge concept range on it. So they can occasionally hide ships that we know about in the unannounced content, but it's rare. Usually it's Straight-to-flyable or a concept ship that we haven't seen before. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So this is the first one. And one thing they did this week that kind of screwed me up, so I'm totally blaming Jake for this. They kind of shifted around the order that these are in, and so I kind of had to do a lot more hunting to be like, okay, that unannounced is this unannounced that I was tracking, because they kind of changed due dates on it. Anyway, for the 3rd time. So this is unannounced content. As you can see, there are a ton of teams that are working on this. You got vehicle content teams, you've got UI feature teams, you got mocap, you got narrative, you've got let's see, what is that, live mission content team, EU landing zone, you got audio. Pretty much almost every single team that was working here had a piece of this one. So this one's fascinating. So this one took 23 weeks, which means it's a mid-sized project. Just best guess on this would be some sort of event like Xenothreat or Ninetales Lockdown, but it's going to be something that's taking place in Pyro would be my guess, just because they finished this. It's been a complete, like with a lot of these, it's been complete for ages, and this one was completed back in quarter 2 of 2021. So when they well knew that Pyro was on its way, they thought that they would be, they called 2021's sitcom The Road to Pyro. So to give you an idea, they thought Pyro would be dropping within the next couple cycles. I don't think they really thought that would be a full year and a half beyond that, but so it goes. But yeah, I think that that might be a Pyro event, so maybe the reverse of Xenothreat, like people from Stanton going to Pyro to attack Xenothreat, and that way you can be on the pirate side of things, attacking the UEE as they're coming in, or like the volunteers from Stanton Security invading Pyro. You'll be on the flip side of that, so you'll be Xenothreat or joining Xenothreat to fight them off. I think that'd be cool. Again, just blue sky. Down here, so we have a vehicle concept that runs 12 weeks. So 12 weeks is typically around a medium-sized concept. So think usually something that small is a fighter of some type. The Scorpius took around that long, to give you an idea for about the size range we're talking about. So that is probably a fighter, if I had to guess. 12 weeks, it's been done since Q2 of 2021, so a while. So again, they could drop that at any time, but yeah, I think something around the size of the Scorpius, relatively simple mechanics, so probably cargo. It's not going to have anything new or involved, so it's probably not going to be a mining vehicle. It's probably not going to be anything other than like cargo or a fighter, something with really well-defined metrics and mechanics. So down to the next one. This one is 43 weeks. The fact that it has the landing zone team and the face team along with the vehicle content team, that tells me that this probably is an actual landing zone, like an actual place you will go. What I'm thinking this is for a short time, around the same time on the deliverables, they had asteroid bases and locations that you could explore that they were kind of working on. I think it dropped off the roadmap, which was kind of sad, off of the deliverables, but this was completed around the same time. Again, this is one that was completed back in Q4 of 2021, so it's been done a while. So if I just had to guess, maybe an asteroid base. 43 weeks would suggest it's relatively complex. That's almost a year of dev time. Definitely thinking it's something for Pyro. We're kind of tapped out in locations in Stanton, unless it's the Air and Halo gateways. It could be that too. That's like the one piece left of Stanton that we don't have yet, and we haven't seen them working on it. They talked about it once briefly, I think back in either 2019 or 2020. They showed us like a 30-second clip of the Air and Halo gateways. Apparently that asteroid field is so dense that you have to have these gateways that kind of punch a hole through it, and that's like the one path that you have to fly through them. So could be one of those. I'm thinking asteroid bases, could be Air and Halo, could be something else entirely. We don't know. So this one's interesting. So most of these are just for the PU that they're hiding for us. There's a couple exceptions. This is one of them. So it's both the PU and Squadron 42. So if you don't know, Squadron 42 is like a prequel to the PU. All the events that happen in Squadron 42 happen before the current year in the verse. So when you drop into the verse, you are existing in the verse after the events in Squadron 42. So with that in mind, if something is happening in both, it means it's something a bit bigger in impact. So this one took 11 weeks. It involves vehicles and weapons. So this down here is the weapon content team. I'm thinking if it's something that involves both of those, in vehicles and vehicle feature teams, vehicle experience teams. I am guessing, just based on when it drops, it might have something to do with tractor beams. Just at a guess, because it's not hugely complex and we kind of have tractor beams. This one was finished in Q4 of 2021, which was around the time that we got the handheld tractor beams. Vehicle tractor beams are on the roadmap, so maybe a different type of tractor beam, gravity controls, something like that. It's gonna be something to do with the vehicles, though. You can tell because it's got the vehicle content team. See, I'm pretty clever. I know things. But tractor beams would kind of make sense with those two things. That's just kind of where my head was at. Curious how it would be different from vehicle tractor beams, but I guess we'll find out. So this one's an interesting one. This one's just the PU. It's 5 weeks. This one wrapped back in Q1 of 2021, but this is the Planet Tech team. So 5 weeks is kind of a really quick sprint if they're actually finished with it. So one of the things with sprints is that they might be waiting for another team to come on and finish the work, or they might actually be done. But 5 weeks is kind of an exploration and pretty quick. What I was thinking at here was this was wrapped around the same time that they had water vehicles. They're kind of doing an exploration on that. So this might be an underwater experience, something like scuba diving or something, just Planet Tech. We've kind of already got storms and we've got clouds, we've got fog. It's not going to be anything like that. So I'm thinking maybe water-based, because they're kind of trying to fill that out now. They're doing lakes and rivers, and this came out at a similar time. So Planet Tech might be things underwater, like actually, I don't know, atmospheres or pressure or something like that. Could be. That's the other thing it could be, is something related to Crusader. But they've already got crush damage. So that one's one of the more interesting ones. There's a couple on here. They're just kind of, the teams involved just make it kind of, it could be anything. But the fact that it only took 5 weeks, pretty quick. I'm guessing something water related, though, just pulling it out of a hat. So down to this one, 12 weeks for unannounced content, and that is this one down here. So this is the location concept art team. So again, this is something that they haven't actually started building out, but it ran 12 weeks, which is a decent amount of time. I mean, that's enough time for a pretty solid exploration, especially if it's just concept art. Location concept art is interesting. It was finished back in Q4 of 2021. Again, I'm thinking this is probably something in Pyro. I'm thinking, since it's just concept art and they kind of retconned. Okay, so they were kind of getting their hairs up when they were saying a retcon, when they were further exploring Pyro and saying, okay, actually these planets in Pyro, these planets and moons in Pyro, are actually a lot more populated than we originally said, because they used to be uninhabited. Now they've actually got towns and stuff like that. I'm thinking this will probably be a location outside of Ruin Station that's significant. So maybe a shanty town or city or something that you can actually trade at and land at, maybe something Hurston sized. Again, this is just the concept art team, so they're not actually building the city. They're just sort of saying this is a thing that could exist. Could also be the re-envisioning of Levski, because they're also working on Nyx. So could be that. Those are my two guesses for that one. So let's see. Those are my two guesses there. Moving on down to the next one. So I kind of skip over the Squadron 42 ones each time, just because they're Squadron 42 exclusives. So without knowing what's going on in Squadron 42, we've kind of been in the dark the last couple of years. It's really hard to say what any of these are, and they'll be specific to that story. They're not going to have an impact on the PU. I have less interest in that, even though I'm going to be playing the hell out of Squadron 42 when it comes out, just so you know. We'll go on down to this one. This is the next EU one, or EU is the next this is the next PU one, but it's done by the EU Landing Zone 1 team. Ran 9 weeks, and I believe this one was... Is that this one? Did I skip one? Oh, I did skip one. Okay, this one for 26 weeks. So again, this is something that's taking place in both the PU and Squadron 42. It's narrative, and it ran 26 weeks. That is something, again, that's another thing that's kind of like this one, where it's really interesting, because if it's narrative and it's impacting both the story in Squadron 42 and the PU, it's a significant event that's going to completely kind of change the storyline of the verse. And so what I was thinking about this one has been done since Q3 of 2021. Again, this is a long sprint. I'm thinking maybe something that is a new threat that they don't want to let us know about yet. Like it's going to be kind of a seismic shift in the story, and that's why they're doing it. So it's going to be, you're fighting the Vandul, and you're fighting the Scrappers, or whatever the hell they call the guys, the human element in Squadron 42, and now there's a bigger threat out there. There's a bigger bad. But that bigger bad is going to be something that impacts the PU too. So, or maybe it's ancient aliens like the Hedesians? The aliens that you get the artifacts from. Might be related to them too, but this is narrative, so these are the narrative team basically just painting a picture. Now we can go down to this one. So this one ran 9 weeks, EU landing zone. So again, just because there's not a lot of places left in Stanton, it's probably a pyro asset. Another thing it could be is a type of asset, and so what I'm thinking is with salvage coming out, we might start seeing actual salvage bases. You could also see scrap towns as opposed to just the scrap yards, which are basically just excuse me, junk piles. Another thing it could be, although I think this would probably be the Planet Tech team, they sort of showed off canyons a little while back, kind of their new canyons, which actually, going back to that Planet Tech team thing, this one up here, 5 weeks, that could be the new canyons too. But this one down here, I'm thinking like Shantytown or something like that. But considering that it's just the landing zone team, it's not involving AI or anything like that, is interesting. So maybe an automated place to drop things off. Kind of hard to say. So let's pop down to this one. This is Unannounced Tech. This is the game services team. It ran 23 weeks. So this is one that I do occasionally talk about when I'm kind of doing my shallow dives. What I think this one is actually the org tools that we've been waiting for a long time. I'm not sure why they're waiting on releasing it. This one was just wrapped up in Q1 of this year, so 2022. But it's game services, so I'm thinking it's org related. I'm not exactly sure what they're waiting for. It's probably something on the server side, or waiting for certain elements to be added into the game to make it viable, or waiting for persistence to come along. But my guess would be it's waiting for some piece before they can implement it, that it's not just going to be impacting things on an org level in Spectrum. It's going to be impacting things in the game, and so they're just waiting on that. That would be my guess, just based on the team that's working on it. 61 weeks, unannounced vehicle. So this one is going to be a straight-to-flyable. VFX has had their bite. Again, UI, VFX, audio is just wrapped. This one's going to be straight-to-flyable, and I would assume it's going to be a straight-to-flyable for 318. So when 318 drops, we're going to probably see whatever ship this is. Just based on what they're dropping, this isn't going to be a huge ship for 61 weeks, and that includes the concept pass. This is something I would say roughly raft sized. What would make sense is another salvaging ship somewhere in the range of something in the range of the Vulture would make sense. Maybe an Argo one would make sense. It's not going to be a hugely complicated ship, but the fact that it includes VFX tells me that it's probably salvage or mining or something like that. Something that actually needs like true VFX to it. It had both the EU and US teams working on it. So yeah, I think we're going to get a salvage ship to compete against the Vulture. Would be my guess. Moving on. So we got another vehicle here. 2 weeks for a narrative team, even though it's just the narrative team. So they're the people that are going to be making basically the documentation, the sales doc. 2 weeks is still a pretty quick turnaround for the narrative team, so this is something small. Guess would be something like a bike. They're just doing a write-up on it. 2 weeks is like, yeah, it's a bike and it has wheels and there's 2 of them, and there you go. Maybe a trike, we'll see. Consolidated Outlands always has to have more wheels. ATV maybe with 4 wheels. But yeah, something small, just narrative team. This would presumably have to be handed off to the vehicle concept artists to actually draw it, because they're not going to release just a write-up. So this one was finished in Q4 of 2021, so it's probably just waiting for the concept artists to come along. Coming on down to here. So 71 weeks. This one is going to be a straight-to-flyable ship, because right now it's just the vehicle content team, but next year vehicle concept team is just working on it now. Next year, after a short gap, and again, same thing I always say, whenever you have something scheduled this far out, don't count on it, but the actual team starts working on it, and they're not going to finish something that takes 55 weeks in concept. It's not going to be 10 weeks to actually build the ship. This is just kind of a holding place that we know you're going to be dealing with this one for a while. So one person, block out your calendar after this date. That's what this is. They're probably only planned through about June. And so this is just kind of around here we'll reassess and we'll start knocking that out, and it'll take a lot longer. But going into theory crafting about what the ship is, it is going to be in concept for 55 weeks, which is putting it on the same scale as the Odyssey and the Carrack, the Banu Merchantman, things like this. This is a big ship. It's if it's not as large as the Carrack or the Odyssey, it's going to be something that is either very complex or it's an alien ship that they don't have a style guide for, and they're really trying to, like the Banu Merchantman is a good example of that, is they kind of had the Banu Defender to work off of, but they had to basically build up all the textures, the design language, all that from scratch. I think that might be what's happening here. If it's an alien ship, is it's not a manufacturer or a race that they're really confident in, so they had the concept artists really dive into it for a long time. Either that or it's a really big ship, so it's one of the two. So let's see, just to kind of look through my notes for a second here. Yeah, so basically my notes said the same thing. It's not going to be like an RSI or Anvil or MISC cargo hauler, for example. This is either a very big or very complicated or very alien ship. So with that on, that's the biggest ship that's on the roadmap right now. This one is also very large. So this one's 50 weeks. It's another straight-to-flyable, but again, they're not going to start working on it for another couple weeks. This one's a little bit closer to going into development than the big ass one. This one's still in concept phase. This one's going to start building in about a week, 2 weeks technically, and then they kind of have a much longer sprint. So again, this is going to be a bigger ship. With 50 weeks, and just based on when they're kind of thinking this is going to land, it's going to be post 4.0, where I think 4.0 is going to land. So this might be something that's going to be IAE next year. So it's probably going to be the centerpiece for IAE next year. So a little bit bigger ship. Yeah, the only thing that would make me think otherwise is the concept time wasn't that long. It was only 7 weeks. So it's either a manufacturer that's really well known with a game loop that's really well understood, like combat or cargo hauling, that they think that they can bang it out really quick, with a manufacturer where they have a lot of style guides. So think Drake or Anvil, RSI, anything like that would make sense for this. I actually take it back. 50 weeks would put it in, including this gap and seeing how short the vehicle concept is. That's a medium ship probably. So think something Freelancer to Andromeda sized. 50 weeks, if they're actually building it out, is in that category. So that's not a huge ship. Totally ignore everything I said in the beginning. Coming on down. 41 weeks for an unannounced vehicle. Again, this one's going to be straight-to-flyable. Just based on when they're wrapping this up, and these are some of the downstream teams, I'm not seeing VFX yet. I would think if they're going to go with my idea of dropping 319 in March, just to kind of tide us over until 4.0 drops, this is a good candidate for a 319 drop, which, since I think 319 is going to be an engineering patch. So one of the things I'm thinking about this is we've got the Crucible, which is a sort of the opposite of the salvage ship. It's a construction ship, kind of a repair ship. We don't have any other ships in that range. So for example, in mining, you have the Prospector, you have the Mole, you have the Orion. There's probably a land vehicle miner. Oh, we've got the Rock and the Rock DS. So you got the land. There's probably one that's in between the Mole and the Orion. So something Starfarer size that's a miner that we're kind of missing in that chain. So eventually, most game loops will have that layering in there, so you have that option. This thing would be probably like the starter size of the repair ship, if I had to guess. I just think that that would be cool. It's something that around 319, if you're going to have an engineering patch, could be something like a e-warfare ship, but I would assume, just pure guesswork, another civvy ship like that. And just being realistic about it, especially if it's March, that would be Fleet Week, so it could be a military vessel. Usually with these, it sort of seems with CIG that if you guess it's a combat ship, you're probably right. I just like to think about the other things it could be. So on any of these, when I say it's probably a mining ship or salvage ship or a repair ship or something like that, just know that option 1 is a combat ship and go from there. So I'm just talking about option 2. On to the next one. So this one ran 30 weeks. This is, again, just vehicle concept team Or no, we're looking at this one up here. So this is 30 weeks and they're actually building it out. So this is another straight-to-flyable. This one, 30 weeks for straight-to-drivable. And this one could be straight-to-drivable in 318. So what I think this is about in the range of the Atlas platform vehicles they've been doing. So the Spartan, and actually let's just go ahead and look up at them. I think I pre-gamed this enough. So the Anvil Spartan, here we've got the Anvil Centurion, took 24 weeks. The Spartan took 22 weeks. So this one seems like it's a little more complicated than both of those. So this one is at 30 weeks right here. So 30 weeks is bigger than the Atlas platform. I believe it is smaller than the Nova Tonk. So if it's a ground vehicle, it's somewhere in between there. It's bigger than Centurion, smaller than like a Tonk, probably smaller than most starters, which is why I think it's a straight-to-drivable. Could totally be wrong about that. Let me do a quick look ahead, because there was, yeah, about the only thing that is missing that I could think of. Let's see if there's any gaps here. There's no real gaps, but the thing that I am thinking is missing from the Atlas platform, and I've mentioned this a couple times, is a flatbed that has, as opposed to having the two guns. So on the Spartan, it's two miniguns. On the Centurion, it's two, I think, size 1 attritions. But as opposed to having those guns mounted over the driver's control panel, or over the where the driver sits, you'd have tractor beams so that they could industrial size tractor beam cargo onto the flatbed. So maybe with the introduction of the tractor beams, it's taken a little longer, but then that would probably knock it out for 318, because they're still working on vehicle tractor beams. So maybe it's something else, something small. This is going to be, usually at IE they release one small ship that's kind of an LTI token, and one big ship. I think this is the small ship, whatever it ends up being. So coming on down, let's see, I believe we are done with that page. On to the next one. Unannounced, 19 weeks. So we're right here. So again, this is just vehicle concept team. So since it's just a concept and they've completed it, again, these are the ones where they're just the brochure, basically. They sort of, like the Legionnaire was, where they basically dropped it on us. What they seem to be trying to do is turn those around a little bit quicker, so you're not waiting 10 years from the time you buy the thing to the time you fly the thing. They're kind of trying to turn around a little bit quicker, which also means their backlog, they're trying to catch up on that. But since a lot of that backlog is bigger ships, good luck. But anyway, vehicle concept ran 19 weeks. So this is similar size and complexity to the Legionnaire. Legionnaire's sprint for concept was about 19 weeks. I think it was 2021. So if you're thinking something around that size and complexity, that's about what this is. I'm thinking a small fighter or cargo hauler, something freelancer sized if it's a cargo hauler, maybe a little bit bigger. We don't have a lot of gaps in either of those lineups, so not sure who the manufacturer would be. There's a lot of missing alien ships that it could be, so that might be kind of cool if it was something Xi'an, like not military, but the Xi'an equivalent of the freelancer, or even a starter would be cool, like something Aurora sized. So civilian Tavarin. That would be neat, but whatever it is, it could drop at any time. Vehicle concept, 19 weeks. It's a medium to small ship. On to the next one. Again, vehicle concept, rank 24 weeks. So this one's a bit longer. This one is either, when I was looking at the timing, just based on when they expect this sprint for the concept again to end, would put it within my window for 319 or 4.0. Again, just a concept, not building the thing out. They've just started work on it, so they should have a pretty good idea how long this will take to bust out the concept images. This one is, I'm thinking this one's probably going to be something a little bit bigger, or medium big size. So this one's about the size of a Spartan. This one's about the size of a Freelancer, give you an idea. So this is something Freelancer cuddy size generally, or if they really understand the metrics of what it's doing, maybe a little bit bigger. It's not going to be something huge though. It's not going to be like the giant ticket ships. Like this isn't something Odyssey sized, probably not even something Starfarer sized. The largest this would be is something Connie sized, would be my guess. Kind of hard to say when it's just the concept art team and based on when it's dropping. Maybe an engineering vehicle, since I'm thinking that's probably what that patch will be centered around. They generally try to keep those things in themes. If it's not dropping with 319, it could be anything. So let's go on down. So this one, vehicle concept, 2 weeks. This is something tiny. So typically I'd say like 2 or 3 weeks is a bike, but just to be fun with it, some ideas that are non-bikes would be something like, especially since we're getting new EVA tech, hopefully with 318, but definitely with 319, some sort of Waldo jetpack that lets you move faster in EVA or more maneuverable in EVA. Would definitely be cool. Again, this is just vehicle concept art. This isn't the actually building the thing out. Another thing it could be is something like a parachute, or we have seen in concept art for the Origin 100i. If you go and you look at some of the concept art on that, there is a hang glider that Origin worked on. So if it's that would be pretty cool. So Origin hang glider, we're going to call it. That's definitely what it is. I guarantee it. So come down to this one. This one's 3 weeks, unannounced vehicle. They completed it already just this quarter. This is the interesting part. The only team that worked on it is VFX. So again, this is something weird. Just trying to think. They had VFX and audio in there, and then they dropped audio, and now it's just VFX. I was trying to think of what kind of vehicle would be VFX only, and the only thing that I could come up with would be like a shield that you would use for a parachute. So you'd basically have this warping shield that would come up underneath you and would slow you down as you're going through an atmosphere. Just a thought. Again, it's concept only, and the only thing we have to go off of is VFX. So they're not building a vehicle, they're just building VFX. So like lightnings and shields and stuff like that, that's it, and it's a vehicle. That's what we have to go off of. Again, that's one of the more interesting ones. Is even more interesting when it was just audio and VFX. I would assume more teams are going to jump in on this one. So on to our last one. This is 16 weeks, but straight to flyable. This one's going to be a ways out. This is post 4.0. So I mean, the vehicle content team is actually doing it. So concept isn't even going to touch this. So this is going to be a straight to flyable. They're not going to give us a sales document and then release the ship a few months later. This is something that's just going to drop straight into the verse as is. With 16 weeks, it's 16 weeks, but so far out, it's not actually 16 weeks. If we're just going off of 16 weeks, then something small to medium. I would assume what's actually happening here is they've only got their roadmap really planned out to June. And so they're sort of saying, we know you're going to be working on it from here to at least here. So it could be something, it could be anything Spartan sized to Death Star sized, who knows. We'll know more when they actually start working on it next year. But that's pretty much it, gang. That's all the unannounced things, just kind of fun to poke around at them. I think most of us are in this game because we love to dream, and what's more fun to dream about than unannounced content, am I right? So thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking through this. Let's see, it's about 40 minutes. So I like to dream too. So if you like this, like and subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and see me next time.